Coming up in this week's episode of our podcast, Bankole Nation, my guest is Cindy Pasky, the founder and CEO of the Strategic Staffing Solutions, the international IT business and staffing company headquartered here in the city of Detroit for decades. Cindy Pasky is a prominent business leader, and in fact, she was the first business leader in Detroit to endorse Mary Sheffield, then president of the Detroit City Council, when she announced her candidacy for mayor. Cindy Pasky is here to weigh in on the first 100 days of Mayor Mary Sheffield in office. It's all coming up right after this break. Stay with us. Let's bring in our guest for this week's episode of Bankole Nation. Cindy Pasky is a prominent Detroit business leader. She's the founder and CEO of Strategic Staffing Solutions, an international IT technology staffing company headquartered here in the city of Detroit, now going into almost 4 decades here. Cindy, congratulations again for what you've done with S3 in this city.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for the invitation to join you today.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we finally got to schedule this because I know you've been traveling, not like Pope Leo, but you've been traveling around the world a lot. So I'm glad we finally got to make this work.
Thank you. I am as well. And I still have a lot of travel. And unlike Pope Leo, my plane still has Delta on the flag.
Well, that's a good thing. So let's begin because I know even as you travel, I mean, you're paying attention to what's happening in the city. And I want to begin by saying you were the first business leader to come out and endorse our current mayor, Mary Sheffield, when she announced that she was running for mayor. The only business leader to come out and support her campaign was you. We are now in the first 100 days of the mayor's time in office. I kind of want to get your take from a business perspective, your assessment of the first 100 days in office here of Detroit Mayor Mary Sheffield.
Oh, well, thank you. And, I think it's important. I have my business view and lens, as you said, S3's always been headquartered here in the city of Detroit, but I also have my residence lens, right? I've lived in the city proper since 1986, so I look at all things in our city from 2 different perspectives. Some of them are the same, and some of them they're not. So I think that it's been a busy 100 days. One of the things that I thought was particularly encouraging was the willingness to keep individuals from the previous administration that had good reputations, knew how to do the job. There was an intentional thought to who should be in the roles, how should we fill the role, should we keep somebody. Many times we see when someone comes into the office, they clean out, right? They just make a wholesale change. I thought there was a lot of thought put into who should be in what roles and based on their skills and their quality versus, a political favor or political chip that needed to be paid. So I was very encouraged by that. She's brought some talent in that I think was unexpected by a lot of people to fill roles. She is heard the message on poverty. We still have to see the execution on making the changes, but recognizing the importance of highlighting that and having leadership around it. So that's the first thing I want to note is just the manner in which positions were filled, the willingness to keep individuals, and then the willingness to go outside, cast a wide net all the way out to University of Michigan, right? To bring in talent to handle what needs to be taken care of in our city.
So instead of a wholesale turnover where you have to start from scratch and have 200 positions to fill in,
right.
you feel that the fact that she was able to keep some people from the previous administration is important instead of having the wholesale turnover, which sometimes some people argue can create a disruption in government because where is a transition, it takes time to get people
Right.
to catch up to certain roles.
Right. And I think, the other message that's sent when you don't do the wholesale, basically you're sending the message that you want the individuals that are best for the job and best for the position. And that's not always what you get if somebody's making political paybacks, right? And so I was really encouraged to see that we recruited outside of the normal political spectrum to fill roles, and that if someone like a Denise Starr had an exceptional reputation for getting the job done, no drama, making a difference, handling it well, then that was the best person for the job. She was asked to stay in that role.
Right. I want to reflect back a little bit, and I think that's the benefit of podcasts, right? You get to reflect in terms of decisions that are made. When you came out to endorse Mayor Sheffield, a lot of people were surprised because, that you came out for her, because she was not the only woman running for mayor. And I'm kind of wondering how you got around deciding to come out and endorse her for mayor, because it was significant for her at that time. We didn't know that she was going to be the mayor of Detroit. Obviously, your support, your endorsement was significant, was a plus. How did you come around that decision? Did she reach out to you to say, I need your support? And, and I don't normally see you at political events. But this was one where you attended that campaign announcement, which actually even shocked a lot of people. I mean, I know Cindy Pasky is unconventional. She does what she want to do, but I'm trying to get into, perhaps get into your mind. How did you arrive at that? Did Mayor Sheffield reached out to you on the campaign before she announced that she needs your support?
Thank you. I think that's a really good question because, as usual, not everyone thinks like you, Bankole. So a lot of people had already decided that they knew who I was going to endorse, when I was going to endorse, what I was going to do,
right.
With the benefit of actually speaking to me. And to her credit, she reached out and asked to come in and meet and to sit down and to have a conversation without assuming that I would have made up my mind, and to really give me the benefit of the doubt to say, I'd really like to come and talk to you and talk about what my vision is and what your opinions are and what you're looking for, and see if there's an opportunity for you to support me. And it was a very productive conversation. I felt of the candidates that we had, that Mary had the most in-depth experience, having been on city council. It's a mixed opportunity, right? Everybody gets to watch you when you make a mistake, but everybody also got to observe as she developed and matured and learned and positioned herself to be a leader. And that was what I observed. And I felt that she had demonstrated that she could grow. She could admit when she makes a mistake. She could reach across different personalities, different parties, different entities, and that she would make a good mayor for the city going forward.
And so was she surprised when you came out to that campaign announcement?
Well, she asked me if I would. And I don't know that she was surprised, but I do think that she was pleased that I agreed to be there. And I felt if I believe in someone, then I should be there early on, right? And support them from the beginning. And that's both in business and politics, in media, right?
Right. I mean, yeah. We're, of course, talking with Cindy Pasky, the founder and CEO of the Strategic Staffing Solutions here in Detroit. A prominent Detroit business leader, was the first business leader to support Detroit, current Detroit Mayor Mary Sheffield, when she announced that she was running for mayor. We're reassessing, of course, examining the mayor's first 100 days in office. Are there any policies? Let's talk about policy now, though. Are there any policies that you think the mayor ought to implement or ought to look at that will accelerate economic growth here in the city of Detroit. You and I have had this conversation over the years about poverty and so forth. You're involved with the work that the Pulse Institute does and so forth. And I know, where your commitment is when it comes to these issues, but are there any policies that you would like this current mayor, Mary Sheffield, to push or to look at that will accelerate economic growth here in the city of Detroit, especially in view of, employment, job opportunities, and people being able to make a livable wage, taking care of families and keeping them in the city?
Well, that's a large question.
It is, yeah.
It is a large question. I don't know that I would be the right person to craft what a policy should look like.
Mm-hmm. But from a business perspective,
right.
you sign payrolls every week.
Right.
There are thousands of families that depend on you and that go home because of what S3 does for them. So from a business policy perspective, though, what do you think the mayor can do here that will help economic growth and also help address some of the issues that S3 tried to do in the community?
Thank you. Where I would like to see the mayor and her administration, I would like them to weigh in with the workforce board. I know that the board has experienced some unfortunate challenges, some, quite honestly, mistakes. And I believe that one of the things that Dave Meter and I were able to do for Mayor Duggan was create a workforce board that could actually understand what business needed, find the way to have opportunity for individuals to be trained, and then to have jobs that were available for them. I think that has fallen off, and we know it works. We proved that it worked. We proved that it worked in healthcare, in manufacturing, in retail. And my belief has always been that Detroiters want an opportunity and they want jobs. So I would like to see a greater emphasis placed on how do we bring that board back to a place in the Detroit Employment Solutions Corporation, back to a place where it understands what business needs, business of all types, removes the barriers for individuals to be trained, and recognizes that the jobs need to be waiting for them when they finish their training. So that would be my one high priority for me, because I was hands-on with that early on, and I know it can work, and we proved that it could work. We created almost 50,000 jobs for Detroiters, and it made a difference. I think that the other area, and I know that this is part of what she ran on, our neighborhoods have basic things, right? They have street lights that work. That's really good. They have fire and police now. That's really good. In a lot of instances, they have landscaping, they have parks, but they need substantial businesses there. People live where they work. And we need to have, I think, a very clear vision and more importantly, an executable plan that says how and where we're going to find a way to have businesses invest within the neighborhoods to create jobs within neighborhoods so that individuals can work where they live. So those would be my two things. The workforce board it was proven that approach works. It needs to come back to that place. And then within the neighborhoods, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a bicycle shop, whether it's a small manufacturing site, whatever it is, retail, we need to have more businesses within our neighborhoods that are supported, that barriers are removed, for them to be there. They create jobs. People want to live where they work.
Yeah. And I think part of the bottleneck is also even on the workforce question, and that is, okay, we have this number of jobs available, but do we have the suitable candidates who are trained and ready to take over those jobs? And
I believe very strongly that if we have individuals that want to work and want an opportunity to change their station in life, then we can come up with a yes for the individuals that are ready to take those jobs. But we have to understand what the jobs are, what the criteria is, and then we have to make sure that we have the training programs in place in order to have individuals prepared for those jobs.
And I'm glad you brought.
We did that before, and we know it can be done.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought up workforce, because I've seen a couple of programs that the mayor has rolled out since she's been in office for the past 100 days now. But I've not seen anything specifically related to workforce development, if you will. And of course, as a talent retention training and so forth, in bringing people to be able to access opportunities. Because we've always talked about Detroit should be a city of opportunity. And of course, that cannot happen without the role of business. And when we look back, let's say over the last 15, 20 years, I mean, you've been around this town for a long time. You've seen administrations come and go. You've dealt with politicians who have come and gone. I just want you to reflect on the role of business in Detroit's economic security, if I can put it that way, because everybody wants a sense of economic security.
Mm-hmm. I think that one, businesses make a business decision intentionally to be in a city,
right?
And so you always want to make sure that you're aware of what environment is necessary and appropriate to encourage a business to stay, and to encourage a business to expand, and then potentially to encourage new businesses to join. You know me, I'm a salesperson at heart. So the easiest sale is the one you've already made. So are we really ensuring that businesses of all sizes and styles that have chosen to be here, that they're appreciated, they're acknowledged, and they have what they need to stay, and then they have what they need to expand. And so that's the first thing. And then I think the second thing is to engage with business in a meaningful way, to understand if you are going to expand, what do you need to do that? And it's business of all size, right? So, the congregation is a really good example. It's in the edge of the Boston Edison district. It's renovated a church in a beautiful, meaningful way. It's a gathering place. It has food. It has music. And then now it has the rectory, which is the pizza place. The making that type of activity much easier, much less cumbersome. Those are jobs, right?
And they're right in the neighborhoods.
They're right in the neighborhood, right?
Right.
So they serve multiple purposes. Is it 1,000 manufacturing jobs? No, but it's jobs, and it's consistent jobs. Right. And understanding how do we make it easier for individuals that are willing to do that, to do it and to get it done.
And I think there also, when the flip side of that is when we talk about business, I think sometimes we have to delineate and make a distinction, because, there are people who tell me, well, Bankole, this company, yes, we want them to stay in Detroit, but they're not a good company. They're all about profits. Right. They just come in and getting the best they can. And, every now and then they'll do one or two things here and there. And that's not one. We want business that will invest in the community and invest in our lives. And so sometimes there's a pushback, and you see it reflected. You are a student of politics, even though you're a businesswoman, you know this. You've seen it play out even when candidates run for political office. Some are scared to embrace the business community because of a strong sentiment that is not just a sentiment, Cindy, but is evidence. They see it with certain companies. So from where you sit as a business leader in this city who has seen a lot of ebb and flow and how business has evolved, the intersection of business and politics and so forth, in your view, what makes a good company? What makes a company appreciated and loved by the community, where people look at your company and say, well, that's a great company. I'm proud to work for them, because the CEO of the company is not only interested in making profits, but they're really invested in the community. And this is the kind of company that I want to work for, or I want to be affiliated with. What, in your view, makes a good company from where you sit?
I think that from the business side, I mean, you have to have something that makes money, right? Because
of course you got to make money. That's true.
If you can't stay in business, it doesn't really matter. You can't do all of the other things that you want to do. So you actually have to be able to run a business.
Right.
And I say that in all sincerity because you can rush through with oh, we need entrepreneurs, we need this, we need that, and put a lot of money towards things like that. And if somebody doesn't have an idea that's sustainable, that can be profitable, at the end of the day, you don't get where you need to be. Right. So whether you're small, medium, or a large corporation, you have to be able to be viable. You have to have individuals that know how to run a business. Then within that, a good company, in our view, Strategic Staffing Solutions, a good company is that we create opportunities for people of all backgrounds, of all experience, in a variety of ways. Our approach to bringing talent in is very different than a lot of others, and it shows in how we look. It shows in who has opportunities. And then, quite honestly, it gives us what I believe is a competitive edge that no one can match. Because along with that then becomes loyalty and effort and retention, all of the things that are very, very important to a business. I think the other thing that once you're a corporation and you prove that you can be profitable and you continue to draw profits, we believe you have an obligation to give back to the communities in which you make money. We believe that that's always what business was intended to do. But it means you also have to be willing to engage and understand the community and understand where you can have an impact. I do think that we see disalignment with what a business may feel is what they should do or how they want to do it. And they are almost telling a community what they need. And we try very hard not to tell a community what we need. We try very hard to understand what's needed and see if we can fill a void and make a difference. I think that's a significant distinguishing factor, in our opinion, of what makes a good corporation. We don't want to tell a community what it is they need. We want to hear what they need and see if we can fill that void.
Yeah. So you're not taking the helicopter approach.
Right.
We're flying around. We're the big bad company. We're the saviors. We know we can take care of this. We know what you need. And so forth. And you know what? To be honest with you, Cindy, I've been in rooms, and I'm sure you know this, where I've heard some of those sentiments.
Right.
And I remember, and I'll share this, in our conversation. This is the benefit of having a podcast and being able to have this reflective dialogue. Several years ago, Cindy, I remember Dave Egner, who was he's the head of the Ralph Wilson Foundation. He was the head of the president of the Economy Initiative in Detroit Foundation, and he invited me to Carol Goss's office. Carol Goss at the time was the president of the Skillman Foundation. So it was me, Dave Egner, and Carol Goss in Carol Goss's office, the three of us having a conversation. And Carol Goss was very interested in my take on some issues and so forth, and was asking for my advice about, how do you speak out more courageously and so forth? Because she said, I follow you. You don't hold back. You always tell the truth with moral clarity. So Dave Egner and I got into the conversation. So the New Economy Initiative, this big foundation, and they were throwing money all over the place. Dave Egner told me in the meeting, he said, we have a lot of consultants and so forth, bam, 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 here and there. But so I asked him the question. I said, now you got all these consultants. What are they doing? These consultants are not connected to the community. They can't tell you where Jefferson and Joseph Campo is. They can't tell you where 6 Mile and Myers is on the west side. I mean, but you got all these consultants writing white paper and so forth. And he was questioning some of the decisions that New Economy Initiative was making because he was not seeing it being felt. And so, in fact, I had to write a column in the Detroit News reflected on that. And then I ran into him at the DAC. He said, yes, I read your column. He said, I remember that meeting you and I had in Carol Goss's office. So I said it to say that, it comes back to the helicopter approach, because people think, or companies or foundations think that because they have a lot of money, that they know what Detroit
Right.
needs. They know what Flint needs. They know what Benton Harbor needs without what Muskegon needs, what Pontiac needs, Saginaw and so forth, Traverse City, without really talking to the people in those communities.
That's right.
And
I,
they're recruiting all this, they bring in all this out of town consultants and they write a white paper here and there and so forth. But I mean, that's okay with the white paper. I understand that. But the question is, what you're doing, is it relevant to the life of the community as a business and as a foundation?
and I think and I well, we agree with that. I mean, I think that there are all types of great ideas that can be created, right?
Right.
But a good corporation creates an idea to answer what they know is a challenge. That's how they're successful in their business, right? It's, in my opinion, should be how they're successful in their giving and making an impact. And when they don't take the time to actually really understand the problem, from the individuals that need the problem solved, they spend a tremendous amount of money, far more resources than an S3 has to spend, but they can't track and count and be accountable for the results. And so when you go back to what is a good corporation, you have to be a good business. You have to know how to run your business. You have to make money. You have to be disciplined and intentional in who you give your opportunities to, and how you hire, and how you make a difference when people have an opportunity to work for you. And then when you choose to invest in your communities and you choose to support your communities, I believe a good corporation, before they come up with what they believe is the solution, they actually make sure they understand what it is that the challenges are.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I wanted to bring that example of Dave Egner of the Ralph Wilson Foundation, because I think it all ties into, because foundations and leaders of foundations and business CEOs, you all go into meetings to look at what needs to be done and so forth. And we always talk about the helicopter approach. You also talk about the fact that CEOs must not only be concerned about profit, that it's not only about the bottom line. I want you to expand on that philosophy a little bit here, because, and I tie it to what is happening right now in the city of Detroit, because there are folks who say, well, I'm not going to get involved in the politics. I'm not going to get involved in the economic and political decision making life of the city of Detroit. That's the mayor. Let her do what she needs to do. I'm just trying to make as much profit as I can on this end. Let Cindy Pasky be out there. Let so and so be out there. They do that. That's fine. I don't do that. I just want to make as much money as I can and get as many tax breaks as I can.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I don't even get me started on tax breaks. That's a whole other podcast.
Well, yeah, I think
Yeah,
the whole of
that's
Detroit know where I stand on that issue. But
that's
go
a
ahead. I'm
whole
gonna let
other
you.
podcast. I think I believe, we believe, S3 has always believed that corporations have an obligation to support the communities in which they gather wealth from. I believe if you go back to an Andrew Carnegie, if you go back to a JP Morgan, while they were considered in some ways perhaps ruthless or direct, they always hired differently, they engaged differently in the communities, and they felt that it was businesses' responsibility, not the government's responsibility, to support places that they did business. And they had unique ways of doing it. Andrew Carnegie built 3,300 libraries in North America. You know why? Because when he was growing up, he never had an opportunity to go to university. He learned by reading. So when he had the resources to make a difference, he said, I'm going to do the same thing and make that available to individuals that let me get to where I am now. And S3 from day one has always believed that you should engage in the communities in which you're gathering wealth from. You should be involved and interested and concerned. And you always have to have the message. And you heard me say this as long as you know me. It's like we have to make money or we can't do all the things we want to do. But once we make money, then a portion of that's at the top of our org chart, right? consultants, customers, community. They're equal in our mind. So our consultants are our team members, our customers, and our community. We have an obligation. We believe corporations should engage in the communities and should have a responsibility for making a difference. And we also believe that if we do that really well, you need less government, not more. And I think that corporations have stood back and have said, let's let government do this. Let's have government be larger. Let's have government be the big employer. I don't really care what political affiliation you have. That is not sustainable. It absolutely isn't.
Yeah, yeah. Let's reflect on your decision to. I'm still trying to peel back the onion on that because your decision to endorse Mayor Sheffield. Did you get any calls from other business leaders when you decided to do that?
Did I receive?
Like, Cindy, what did you just do? Let's stay out of this.
Actually, no, nobody called me. I think maybe they didn't want to know what I thought.
Uh-huh. I'm just curious because there's a lot in the political grapevine. I'm just curious if you received any calls saying, Cindy, what did you just do?
I did not, but I think partly because the people that were disappointed that thought or assumed that I was going to support somebody else, they knew once I stood up and made my decision, there was nothing to talk about, right?
Right.
And I believe that Mary was the best candidate that we had. I believe that we had an opportunity to watch her grow, to watch her mature. She understands how city government works. She understands where challenges can be. She understands how city council works. And she wasn't afraid to say, yeah, I had to grow up and I had to mature. And yeah, I made a mistake here. I made a mistake there. We don't have a lot of elected officials that are actually willing to do that in any party at any level.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about Detroit 5 years, 10 years from now, where you would like to see the city advance economically, taking into consideration the role of business, the corporate community, vis-a-vis, of course, public sector collaboration as well.
I would like to see that when we talk about business in Detroit, that the conversation when we say business, people automatically think business of all sizes. And we don't do that now. When you say business, everybody automatically goes to a large corporation, right? The creator of jobs that are sustainable in the last 10 years have not been large corporations. They have been small to mid-sized corporations. We have to have the mindset and recognize that that is the case. Yes, we like having the big brand names. Yes, we like having headquarter buildings. But who creates the jobs in the United States? And who creates jobs that are sustainable in the United States? It's small and mid-sized business. So we need a city that values our large corporate headquarters and respects them and creates a venue for them to stay, but equally says, if we really want to be a job creator, we are going to recognize the value of mid-sized business and small business, and we are going to make decisions that support them in the same way we support our large corporations.
Well, and I think that's also important because there's a very strong perception backed by evidence that, sometimes city government tends to lean more towards large corporations and what they need, when compared to the small business, the entrepreneur, and so forth. The CEO of a small scale entrepreneurial company or a mid-size may not have the cell phone of the mayor's chief of staff, right? But a billionaire would have the cell phone of the mayor's chief of staff and can get the mayor to the announcement tomorrow. The mid-size entrepreneur has to be put on the scale on the calendar and wait for the next 6 months if the mayor is free and so forth. So there seems to be that kind of a disparity in terms of treatment, in terms of who gets attention and who doesn't get attention. And I think perhaps it's reordering the will, or perhaps recalibrating and saying, well, hold on, we need to do things a little bit differently here. Because I've talked to some of these entrepreneurs who feel like, they don't have enough juice to get the attention of someone in the mayor's cabinet.
I think that one of the opportunities we have with our new mayor is to see if that changes. Because I think that her team knows for the neighborhoods to be successful, they need successful small and mid-sized businesses. So they have a window of opportunity for her to set the precedent that says a business is a business, and we will figure out a way to support businesses accordingly. It certainly hasn't been the case in our state for the last 8 years. We'll see what happens when we have a change in administration.
Seems like you want to weigh in on the governor's race, but that will be my next question. But go ahead.
But I think that if we want our state to grow, if we want our cities to grow, we have to recognize who creates the jobs, and we have to remove barriers for them to do that, and we have to be there for them. And I believe that with our new mayor and the new administration, there's an opportunity for that to happen.
Yeah. And we'll keep our fingers crossed, Cindy. The other question I want to ask you, and I want to switch quickly to the governor's race briefly, whether you think the mayor's office is asking too much or too little of business leaders. Has there been any ask from the mayor's office to the business community?
I think it's been appropriate. I think there was a really good mix of business individuals on the transition team. It was a mix that looked like the city of Detroit, looked like the future of Detroit, and that was very encouraging. I think that the support for that was just right. There wasn't too much, there wasn't too little. The level of fundraising for initiatives was appropriate. It wasn't outrageous. It was just right. I feel that there is opportunity going forward to have more requests, again, to support what's going on in the neighborhoods. And then particularly for our larger corporations to say, how can we engage? What is it that we can do that generates jobs where we need them to be generated? And so for some corporations, it's easier than others, right? Manufacturers perhaps can have a supplier that they point to a neighborhood. Henry Ford is a significant player for us now. A lot of investment, a lot of building, really that's gonna move into the North End and have an impact in a neighborhood in a way that people thought that they couldn't. So can we follow that example? But I think there's more to be asked of business, but I appreciate the fact that what has been asked has been reasonable, thoughtful, not outrageous, and not with demands.
All right, and I hear you on that, and I was going to go deeper, but let me switch a little bit quickly to statewide, and I want you to weigh in because you also chaired the State of Michigan's Task Force Board, correct?
The Workforce Board, yes.
The State of Michigan's Workforce Board. You're looking at we have a governor's race. We should know by January 2027 we should know this November who the next governor would be. Are you observing it on the sidelines? Or are you involved in any way?
Right now, I'm observing it on the sidelines. I think everybody knows that I have a very close relationship with Jocelyn Benson, and have supported her in the past and believe in her. I think she's incredibly talented. I think it's hard for anyone to not acknowledge what's happened at the Secretary of State, right? But particularly those of us who grew up here, it's never worked this well. But I also have a really long, strong relationship with John James. I've known him since before he served in the military. I've known his father for a long time. And so my focus is on those two candidates. I think that they each have challenges, they each have strengths. And I think our state would be in great hands with either one of them.
See, this is Cindy Pasky, the Independent. It's very interesting. It's but I think anybody who knows you knows Cindy calls her own shots,
Yeah,
and I'm hearing you talk, and I'm wondering, Mayor Duggan in the rear view mirror. I mean, you've been very supportive of Mayor Duggan,
yes, I
but
have.
yeah, but this is your decision. You said Benson. Are these Jocelyn Benson and John James? Are those the two you would like to see go out in November?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think they both bring, just like everybody else, right? They have strengths, they have weaknesses, but I think they both have character. They both have foundation in their own ways. They're both self-made. And I think that our state would be in good hands with either one of them.
Interesting. And of course, Jocelyn Benson is likely to become the Democratic nominee for
Yes.
governor. And would that put you in a tough spot if
No,
Jocelyn?
no, I don't think so. I think that I have a strong relationship with both of them. And I think that once we get through the primaries, then I'll say this is where I'm going to stand. But
But you
I
also
would
have a relationship with the independent candidate running for
I
governor,
do have
Mike
a I
Duggan.
have a good relationship with the independent candidate. I was incredibly supportive of him as mayor. I was honored to serve as co-chair of the workforce board. I think Mike is an amazing person. I don't My opinion, which he doesn't agree with, I'm not sure that an independent can be elected. And I think probably the one thing that an independent candidate we haven't figured out how to address is what about the Secretary of State? What about the Attorney General? What about
Those
so
other
what,
offices, yeah.
yeah, those other offices, and how do you influence the quality of candidates? I mean, I think that what happened at the Democratic convention was unfortunate, inappropriate, sad, and not very productive. Um, I don't know. I don't know if Jocelyn's going to be able to choose to influence in that or to not. Um, but I'm not sure how an independent can have sway with what happens in the state. And I think
Yeah,
that's what we look for from
right.
our governor, right?
Right. Well, I know Mayor Duggan clearly would not agree with your analysis, but
I know he wouldn't. Yes.
that's the independent-minded Cindy Pasky speaking. Let's bring it back home to Detroit. S3, you just celebrated your, what, 35 years?
Yeah, we'll be 36 years old October
Yeah,
1st.
you're almost close to 40, and before you know it, you'll
Yeah,
be celebrating a golden jubilee, 50
that's
years. I
right.
mean, how
That's
does
right.
it feel for you, though? Your company has been around for a very long time, has been here even before this entire recovery became so fancy, and and so forth.
Well, thank you. We have. I mean, when we started, Mayor Young was in office, and you know how I feel about Mayor Young. I think so much of what we have was laid by the foundation of him and his team. And was fortunate enough as a young entrepreneur starting out to actually get to meet him. So I think as a resident of the city, it's exciting. It's good to have a city that is clean. Our safety numbers are never where the chief would want them to be, but they're in a place that's relatively good when you look around the rest of the cities in North America. We have we're interesting and unique and thriving. People want to come and visit our city. I appreciate that. I enjoy it. I really want to see more people in the city of Detroit have the opportunity to be a part of what's going on. And I continue to be dismayed that the poverty numbers haven't changed. There are ways for that to happen, jobs to be created to make that happen. So we're honored to be headquartered in the city of Detroit. We're very global now. I've been in Manila, which is where our Asia headquarters are. I've been in Vilnius, which is where our European headquarters are. And later this month, I'll be in Buenos Aires, is where our LATAM headquarters are. So our world is much larger than it was 36 years ago, which is my job. But we're still honored and committed to the city of Detroit. We want to see the city of Detroit continue to be a place that people want to visit, but we want to be at the top of the list for saying we changed the poverty numbers. We figured out a way to employ more Detroiters. We recognize that when you have someone like a Henry Ford, you can create the range of jobs you need to impact a variety of people. How do we do more of that? And how do we have our neighborhoods be exactly what they could be?
Mhm.
And so I'm happy to be here. I love this city. This is where Paul and I live. You know that. We've lived in the city proper since 1986. So we have seen a lot of changes. S3 has always been headquartered here. This will always be our headquarters city. And I'm glad that we have all of the attributes that come along with it, whether it's sports or music or food or culture and
Right.
all of those things. But I'm still dismayed that we have so many Detroiters that are not part of that celebration.
Yeah. And I think one more item I want to hit before we round this interview is public safety. I know you're a big supporter of the Public Safety Foundation. I last year I moderated hosted Police Chief Todd Bettison, who's currently the police chief, talking about public safety in the city of Detroit. How do you factor that into all of this conversation? Because obviously we can't have jobs if there is no public safety.
Right.
Business cannot come into these neighborhoods that you're talking about if there is no public safety, yeah,
Thank you.
and so forth.
Yeah.
And the perception of that is
And the
also important.
perception. Right. I think I was very, very, very pleased that our mayor asked the chief to stay and that he agreed to stay. I think that the thing about chief is he continues to invest with officers in the community in a meaningful, hands-on way, whether it's actual physical space where someone can walk in, whether it's the manner in which they patrol, the manner in which they engage with the citizens. But if they're not in the communities and they're not in the neighborhoods, the ability to change the crime isn't there.
Yeah.
And the ability to say, how do we address the challenges we have in a meaningful way? And so the chief wants to hear and he listens and he's there. And that is why we look the way we look and other cities continue to look the way they look. And so we stand there, we want to support him, we want to engage. We would never, ever think to suggest how he should do his business. But if there's something he needs and there's a way that we can support, we will and we have.
All right. Any final comments for our mayor who has just crossed 100 days in office?
Well, one, thank you. I think in today's environment, anyone who stands up to say that they're going to run for public office deserves a big heartfelt thank you, because that's not an easy thing to do. And we all know that. I believe that the one thing that she does that I always tell my team to do is she's starting to find a really good balance of being herself while being a mayor. Mm-hmm. And that is also unique in elected officials. And we want her to be able to be that person that she is and continue to grow and to know that she has my support. She has a lot of people that believe in her, a lot of citizens that believe in her, and equally as many or more that depend on her. So we want her to be successful. As she goes, our city will go.
All right. Thank you so much, Cindy, for making it on the podcast.
Thank you, Bankole.
All right.